I expect my stroll through town to be leisurely, but I'm surprised to see bright lights and decorations when we come into the plaza area. Specially crafted lanterns hang from the shingles of the rooftops, and the town floor is littered with both white and red flower petals. Lilies and roses, I get it now. Everywhere I look, there are stalls decorated with lilies and roses. What is all this?
A celebration, obviously.
The plaza is the heart of grand festivities. The stalls are filled with games, music, and food. Everything is either lily or rose themed, and everywhere I look I see smiling faces and laughing crowds. That's really cute. Emmeline said they had wanted some way to celebrate my birthday with the townsfolk, but I was expecting them to distribute a drink. Not all of this. There are rose petals too.
Only because the rose and lily aesthetic is a good combination, no? It has absolutely nothing to do with stealing your spotlight, I can assure you.
No, of course not. I cannot stop smiling as I take in the sight of the town. It is beautiful at this time of night, and seeing the townsfolk so immersed in all of the festivities makes me happy. Thank you, Klaude.
Your smile is thanks enough, love. And we both owe thanks to your family, the palace servants, and those of the Marchen. I would not have been able to plan all of this without them.
How humble of you. Once we are closer to the palace gates and out of view of everyone else, I lean forward to plant a kiss on Claude's cheek. He blushes immediately. The endearing flush on his cheeks makes me laugh. I love you, Klaude.
I love you too, darling.
He puts a hand to the rose locket.
With all my heart.
So cute, my heart. Ah! These two. I loop my arm through his as we make our way through the gates. Oh, must be morning again. Or just late evening and we're in our bed. I plop down on my bed with a sigh. The night celebrations have gone on so long, I am more exhausted than usual. Sleep feels incredibly alluring, but... I sit up as Klaude enters the room with a bright smile.
And here I was hoping you'd fallen asleep so I could wake you with a kiss.
That will not be necessary. Klaude steps forward and holds out a small box to me. It is simply wrapped with a small blue ribbon on top of it. I wonder what it could be. Klaude takes a seat beside me as I unfasten the ribbon at the top and pop the box open. After getting through layers of wrapping paper, I find a smaller box inside. I pop the box open carefully and stare at what I see inside. I'm gonna guess Lily Locket. Yes! Called it! Now you guys match! Aw, so cute! I take the pendant and its chain out of the box carefully and trace the petals with my fingers. My eyes immediately go to the rose pendant on Claude's chest.
Now we match.
My fingers tighten around the lily pendant. The celebration at the Marchen and for the townsfolk, the cake, and this gift. Despite Claude's flair for the dramatic, he was still able to give me so many things today without sacrificing their genuineness.
You like it?
No. I love it. Claude's expression falls, then just as quickly he looks confused when I laugh. I love it.
You really do love to tease me, don't you?
I put a hand on his knee and lean forward, still gripping the pendant in my fingers. I promise to treasure it always. Thank you, Klaude. Before he can say anything, I lean forward to kiss him. Our lips meet in a kiss that starts soft and then eases into something deeper. I lean into him, causing him to fall back on the bed. Is there another birthday present in the works here?
Oh, you're in one of those moods.
Not at all. I just noticed your form was lacking, so I exploited your weakness.
I should know better than to let my guard down in front of my best pupil.
Ah, go away! I lean toward him again, my lips brushing his once again, but a knock startles us both. When neither of us says anything, the knock comes again.
Excuse the interruption, Princess Lucette, Prince Klaude. The king desires to speak with the prince in the throne room. He says it is about the celebration budget.
Celebration budget? Klaude rolls out from underneath me with a sheepish laugh.
Ah, right. I suppose that is important.
He calls back that he will be at the throne room shortly. The maid leaves, her footsteps echoing out in the hall. What is this about a celebration budget?
Well, many of the supplies we set up in the town for your birthday celebration had to be paid for from a fund. Brigantia helped fund some of this too in honor of our marriage, but...
He smiles sheepishly.
I am afraid I have yet to explain that part to the king.
I stifle a sigh as he smooths down his clothes. I'm about to wave him off when he leans down in front of me once more. He uncurls my fingers from around the lily pendant and holds it up.
If you don't mind, darling.
He leans back to clasp the necklace at the back of my neck. When he pulls away, the lily pendant hangs from my neck. This small weight reminds me of the glass slipper necklace I used to have in this same place.
I'll see you later, Lucette.
The two of us say our goodbyes before he rushes from the room, leaving me alone to think on the events of the day. I want to see if she has the pendant on her next time. Days pass after that, and the usual schedule begins to fall back into place. Klaude has returned to his usual morning meetings with the king and his class sessions. My own schedule is composed of meetings and lessons, including magic practices with Delora and Waltz. On top of all those things, I had the lessons that I mentioned to Lance. Lance took my suggestion to ask Klaude for assistance to heart, which means that I had to find a time that worked for all three of us. In the end, we decided on a time after Claude's lesson. That is why we are all gathered in the dining hall now.
You're so stiff you could be a sculpture.
Lance attempts to relax his shoulders and ends up slouching.
Llama? Have you forgotten all of those lessons we took together? I thought your memory was better than that.
Lance smiles sheepishly. I notice his eyes flicker to me, then down to the floor again. Am I making him nervous? I could leave. They're both like, no, wait, don't go.
No!
They both speak at the same time. Claude sighs as he runs a hand through his hair.
For a few moments...
Man, Claude's voice came out. For a few moments, annoyance flickers onto his expression, then quickly fades away. Ahem.
I'm sorry, Karma.
Apologize by getting it right. I know you can do this. We both took speaking lessons together. Now, start again.
Lance once again squares his shoulders and looks at the two of us solemnly. He is about to speak when Klaude holds out his hand.
Why do you look so angry? If you have that scowl fixed to your face, you'll intimidate your audience.
Lance cringes as he tries to settle his expression into something gentler. A small smile slips onto his face and Klaude sighs again. I knew there was so much involved.
Now you're smiling. What exactly is the problem?
You know the problem. I'm terrible at crowds.
No, that's not it. You've spoken to crowds plenty of times before. This has nothing to do with the audience at all, does it? It's the subject material.
Well, of course I would be stressed about the subject material. This is a speech announcing my inevitable ascension to the throne. How can I not be stressed about it? Most times I feel like I'm not worthy of the title of king.
I think the brothers just had a bonding moment. And that right choice indicator was because we got Klaude to help him out. And so Klaude had the opportunity to be like, Maybe me and my brother are similar after all, and I can understand him. When Klaude remains silent, Lance crosses his arms and looks at him quizzically.
Karma?
Claude's only response is a sullen glare. Why is he so angry?
I don't understand.
Don't understand.
It is an honor to be crowned a king. We have been preparing for that duty our whole lives. You have known as long as I that this honor would one day be bestowed upon us. Never once have I seen you struggle or complain. And yet now that I am out of the picture, you suddenly flounder.
Karma.
I did not give up that title just so you could bring shame to it.
Interesting. Hitting a little too close to home for Mr. Karma, I guess, this time. Lance stares at him, obviously shocked by this turn in the conversation. My surprise mirrors his.
What?
What? Both of us speak in unison.
I'm disappointed in you, Lance.
The anger on Claude's face is alarmingly palpable. He glares at Lance, who's looking more and more like he might succumb beneath that gaze. This is not right, but... yeah. Klaude, your beastiness is coming out. It's time to interject here. I thought this was meant to be a practice session, not a lecture. Chastising someone is not assisting them, Klaude. This may be their lesson, but Klaude is being unnecessarily harsh.
Lucette.
We frown at each other for a few moments, our gazes locked. In the end, it is Klaude that deflates and looks away first. Yeah. Sometimes you need Lucette to bring you back down to earth. The vulnerable expression on his face is both heartbreaking and confusing. He looks guilty, which means that he knows that he is in the wrong. So why is he acting like this? As a defense mechanism.
Karma, is something wrong?
Klaude scowls. I am unable to withhold my opinion. I step forward, eyebrows furrowed. Lance was simply asking for help, and now you're angry at him for some reason. This is not about him. This is about you, isn't it? Klaude?
If this is about my being stressed, then I apologize. I want to do my best when giving this speech. The last thing I want to do is embarrass Father.
The dining hall doors open and a few servants enter, breaking apart the conversation. Lance and Klaude immediately fix a smile to their faces as if nothing has happened.
We'll continue this next time, Lance.
Of course.
The two give each other courteous nods before Klaude turns and walks away. As he passes by me, he leans over and whispers into my ear.
I'm sorry you had to see that, darling. I'll explain later.
Those are the last words he speaks before he leaves the dining hall. You better explain. Not too long after he has left, I follow behind, gripping the lily necklace tightly in my fingers and grumbling to myself. Aw, it's too bad. I just now remembered. So she's not wearing it in her sprite. That's sad. And just when I thought things were returning to normal. Yeah, it couldn't be that easy, could it? A kingdom's weight. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown.
This will be the last point, Princess.
Jurian rushes forward without counting down to the last second. She holds her sword low, and I can tell that she means to strike at my hip. I bring up my blade to block her attack. The swords collide, but not for long. Her blade slides past mine and rises to meet my shoulder. I step back just in time to catch her next strike. This was supposed to be a practice session with Klaude, but he disappeared earlier this morning before I could catch him. Ever since that strange fight happened with his brother, he has been conveniently busy. Why is he avoiding me? I am barely able to dodge Jurian's next strike as I delve deeper into my thoughts. It is not just Claude's business that bothers me. Ever since he and Lance fought, I have been having nightmares that are most likely fueled by the Tenebrarum. They tend to be an after effect of negative energy. I feel an agitated strand of electricity snake its way up my arm and quickly shake it off before Jurian can touch me. Though I am fast enough to dispel the magic, I am not quick enough to bring my sword up in time. Jurian gains the final point by tapping her blade on my shoulder.
You were distracted. Are you okay, Princess?
I am fine.
Does this have anything to do with Prince Klaude? He seemed a little off-kilter lately. Garland said yesterday that he looked tired enough to collapse right there in the hallways.
He is, as always, overworking himself. He will be fine. He is obviously not all right. I should try speaking with him later. I sheathe the sword I am holding. Thank you for agreeing to meet for a practice on such late notice.
It's always a pleasure, Your Highness. It's an honor for Garland and I to help you with your swordplay.
After sheathing her own sword, Jurian and I make our way over to the tree stump where we have stored our supplies. The last items we pick up are the flowers resting carefully at its base. We make our way silently through the trees and into a clearing where a single gravestone lies illuminated in gentle sunlight. I was wondering when we were going to visit this grave. Jurian heads over to the gravestone first and sets down her flower.
Hello, Fritz.
She smiles as I set down my lily. I take a step back to look at the gravestone, which has Fritz's name and title engraved into it. Fritz. For a few moments, I am stuck staring at the gravestone in quiet contemplation. No matter how many years pass, I will never forget the smile he wore on his face as he died, or the apology he uttered with his dying breath. After everything that he did, the least I can do is visit him here once a month to pay my respects. Normally it is Klaude that is here to pay his respects with me. I lean down beside the gravestone and speak to Fritz briefly. It is a small thing, just a simple prayer for him. Jurian does the same. When we are done, I bow my head slightly and whisper, I hope that you are happy wherever you are, Fritz. After we are done, we head back to the palace together. Yeah, poor Fritz got killed by his dad. Our time together is brief. We both have our own commitments for the day. Jurian has nights she must supervise, and I have an obligation to meet with my father and the counselors. After exchanging farewells at the front gate, we both go our own ways. Much to my surprise, the throne room is devoid of the usual advisors when I enter. The king is seated at the head of a mostly empty table. Klaude is the only one that sits beside him. The two of them pause in their conversation to look up at me. Klaude flashes me a sheepish smile. I scowl back at him. Aw, poor Klaude. The king looks between the two of us quizzically, but does not comment as I take my seat on the opposite side of the table. I thought this was a meeting to discuss the implementation of a new law. Where are the counselors? Father just smiles at me.
There was a change in schedule. It turns out that the law we were meant to discuss today has not been appropriately plotted. The counselors were meant to have proposals ready today, but I concluded that many of them were not aptly prepared and thus decided to reschedule.
Their disorganization is astounding.
It is no matter. The meeting has already been rescheduled to a time that is more convenient for everyone. Seeing as this time had opened up, I decided to reserve it for the both of you instead.
Father turns to regard Klaude.
Have you given any thought to the situation I posed yesterday?
I have.
Situation? I know Klaude and Father meet on a regular basis for special meetings, but Klaude does not tell me much beyond the fact that the king usually tests him in some way. Klaude turns to look at me, his expression solemn.
The king gave me a hypothetical scenario a few days ago and told me to come up with a solution to it. The situation is this. A threat to the kingdom of Angielle stands at the outskirts of the country. The threat is a group of dangerous witches.
Witches. The word forces me to reflect on Angielle's current situation. Though tension between witches and humans has significantly decreased over the past few years, there are still undoubtedly corrupted witches in our midst. It does not matter that the Fairytale Curse does not exist anymore. There are still witches who use their magic to threaten humans. I have been trying my best to settle these affairs as the Tenebrarum Bearer, but even my influence is not all-powerful. I suppose the king's scenario isn't inappropriate given the kingdom's current social climate. I think that, but I still cannot help but feel my heart sink at the thought. Though Klaude tells me I should not blame myself for these incidents, I cannot help it. Even though I am being helped by a lot of people, it is still my obligation to speak with the witches and smooth out the tensions between them and humans. I shake my head as if to physically dispel the thoughts from my mind, then turn my attention back to the conversation at hand.
In this scenario, the witches have already harmed some of the citizens. Given this kingdom's previous history with them, what action would you take as king to dispel the threat?
Both father and I stare critically at Klaude.
My answer still remains the same, Your Majesty. I would refuse to meet this threat with hostility until I have captured and spoken to them. I don't believe that I alone would have the right to judge them. I would speak with a witch on the matter before passing judgment.
How would you explain this to the townsfolk?
What do you mean?
What if many of the citizens, still wary of witches because of the war, advocated for an immediate death sentence?
I feel a soft pang in my heart at the statement. Whenever father says things like that, I cannot help but imagine the atrocities the witches had to face here in Angielle during the war.
I would say that such a decision would be inhuman. In my eyes, condemning anyone to death is an unforgivable crime. Besides that, everyone deserves a trial, no matter if they be a human, a witch, or a fairy. Even given Lucette's efforts to heal the divide between witches and humans, the rift still exists. The relationship hangs on a precious thread. If we disregard a trial, we risk harming that already fragile relationship.
Then what would you do when faced with this imminent threat?
It goes without saying that I would speak with the Tenebrarum Bearer first. Since she and the Lucis Bearer are in charge of maintaining peace at the most basic level, it is imperative that we seek their counsel first. At the same time, we should prioritize the safety of the civilians that might be in danger. Second, intensify security. But no action is to be taken before we ask for the opinions of the bearers. In this scenario, it would make more sense to speak with the Tenebrarum Bearer first.
Imagine that the Tenebrarum Bearer is unavailable in this situation. The sole responsibility to act lies on your shoulders, Klaude.
Both Klaude and I stare at the king.
Unavailable?
In this hypothetical situation, yes. Perhaps the Tenebrarum Bearer is in an important meeting. Whatever the case, she is unavailable. Well, if you cannot rely on anyone else, what decision do you make?
Klaude looks at the king, composed but quiet. He looks like he is struggling to figure out what to say. Well, the whole point of this hypothetical situation is I am not involved. I cannot be involved now in the hypothetical situation by, like, I think he should do this. Because he has to make the decision himself. I'm keeping my mouth shut. It is not my place to speak. The king may have called me here, but this is Claude's test. Besides, I trust that he knows how to answer. Klaude finally speaks, a little hesitantly at first.
With all due respect, Your Majesty. A king rules for the people, yes? Even if he was just a human king, he has a responsibility to oversee the safety of all civilians in his kingdom, human or not. Thus, I would say it is necessary that he seek guidance from others. The kingdom has a responsibility to work with the witches to solve this problem. Such collaboration is vital to maintaining peace. To skew that balance even more by condemning a group of witches to death would not just be a fool's move. It would be an echo of the same heartlessness that started the war in the first place.
The king looks at him thoughtful.
When the Great War broke out, Brigantia was uninvolved. My father has always disliked war. He has always believed that violence only begets more violence. It is for this reason that we did not come to anyone's aid in the previous skirmish. I heard about the notorious Hilda growing up. Stories of her radiant beauty and strength. Of her intimidating but regal existence. When those stories became tales of a woman whose heart was made of ice, I was not fearful. I was saddened. I often wondered what could be done to bring such a noble figure to madness. I've met a good many witches in Angielle, and I can say with pure conviction that there are many that can be trusted, even despite the current divide. A king may wear a crown on his head and have the final say, but he must always take advice from those that have more experience than him.
It is so strange to see Klaude so humble.
Speaking outside of hypotheticals, Your Majesty, I am extremely lucky. Lucette will make the perfect queen. She's a natural-born ruler who has learned balance better than any of us.
You still manage to be a flatterer, no matter the situation. I say that, but I cannot help but smile. At first, there is no immediate response to Claude's words. Father looks thoughtful as he strokes his chin, taking in his words. Then, abruptly, he laughs. Klaude flushes faintly.
Did I speak out of line, Your Majesty?
No, not at all. I am just amused. I do not know the Brigantian king well, but on the occasions that I have met with him, he has spoken just as you have. He is a man that upholds his morals no matter the danger. Some may see it as selfishness or naivete, but in the end he has always strived for balance and peace. That is the reason you took up the sword, isn't it? To protect the peace.
The flush on Claude's cheeks becomes a dark pink. Seeing him so embarrassed in front of the king makes me smirk.
Yes, Your Majesty.
I should also mention that he plays with swords because he finds them flashy.
Lucette, darling.
The king laughs before waving the comment off with a smile.
I am not worried about you. Either of you. When the time comes for you to wear crowns, I know that this kingdom will be in capable hands.
It is a blessing that I still have Father here to help guide my hand. I have always been prepared to take on responsibility as the queen, but I also know that it is a very heavy weight. That breaks my heart. He's not gonna be here and Waltz's route. I am glad I am closer with Father now so that I can seek his counsel.
The two of you are excused.
Your Majesty.
That is all I required of you today, Klaude. The same goes for you, Lucette. I will let you know when I have rescheduled the meeting with the advisors.
Both Klaude and I sigh out in unison when the king excuses us. The two of us had barely left our seats when the king speaks again. Yes?
I am sorry, Lucette.
Sorry?
I hope you didn't find that scenario offensive in any way.
Perhaps once I might have, but I understand Father's reasoning. I am glad that he is making an effort to understand my feelings, at least.
I never meant to imply you were not doing a good job keeping the balance as the Tenebrarum Bearer. I am proud of you, and the work you put into this kingdom.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
I wouldn't mind being called Father every once in a while, you know.
That's true, she hasn't really called him Father, like in Rod's route. It's very interesting the changes between routes here. The two of us exchange smiles before I turn back to Klaude. By the time I turn around, however, he is already at the doors. Even as I watch, he passes through them without glancing back. My earlier contentedness fades away into agitation. He is not getting away. I hurriedly say my farewells to the king before rushing out the door after Klaude. Get back here, man! Stop running away from me! Klaude has only made it a few steps down the hallway when I hold out my hand and gather ice at my fingertips. I'm freezing you to me. Oh, the ice gathers at Claude's feet and roots him in place. Get him, girl. Not so fast, coward prince.
Lucette, love, did you stop me just so you could tell me how impressed you were with my performance in there?
He seems about to say something else before he stops to look at me. The glower on my face must be intense, for it makes his good cheer wither away immediately. Explain, now.
Oh, you mean about the...
I just stopped your brother. Could you give me a moment? Klaude stops to glance at someone approaching behind me. I barely have any time to follow his gaze before I notice that Lance has stepped in between us, frowning.
Karma.
Llama?
Lance narrows his eyes at him.
I challenge you.
What?
I challenge you to...
Excuse me? I was in the middle of an interrogation here. Excuse you and your sibling rivalry for 2 seconds. Lance's eyes widen when he sees me standing there. He eyes the ice at my fingertips and at his brother's feet before cravenly stepping back with an apologetic smile.
Sorry, I got so riled up I didn't even realize you were standing there, Princess Lucette.
You should freeze his feet to the ground for that, Lucette.
I ignore Klaude and turn to Lance. I need to speak with Klaude about something important, Lance. So unless this challenge of yours cannot wait, I would prefer you come back later.
Oh, my apologies. It's typical Brigantian tradition to challenge those who you want to prove yourself to.
Lance narrows his eyes at Klaude.
That is why I'm here to challenge you, Klaude.
In the end, he is so riled up he completely ignored me. Klaude looks at him for a few moments disgruntled, then he smirks.
Usually I'm the one to challenge you. But if you insist, you're going to have to let me choose the challenge. I haven't forgotten the last time you chose chess.
It was not my fault people were cheering for me because I had the better disposition.
Do you know how difficult it is to win at chess when people are jeering at you?
Lance inclines his head toward me.
Why don't we let the princess select the challenge?
Klaude looks like he's about to protest before he notices the frown on my face.
Fine. After you select this challenge, I'll tell you everything you want to know, Lucette. No more running.
You promise?
I promise.
I can either put them on a level playing field or give Klaude the advantage. Well, I know he's been a butt lately, but he is our boo, and he's gonna talk to us, so sword fighting, get hecked, Lance. An uncharacteristically intense light comes into Claude's eyes as he stares at his brother.
A good suggestion, Lucette.
He glares at Lance.
Fight me.
What?
Lance looks obviously disheartened. He looks at me, and for a few moments his eyes are so pleading I almost feel the need to reconsider.
We will settle this with a duel. It will be very traditional and straightforward. No cheating, and we will only use practice swords.
I am giving Klaude the advantage here, but regardless of what happens, I do believe this will help the two of them see eye to eye. We can have either Jurian or Garland oversee the match, so long as they are not busy.
What is this? Is my little brother a coward?
No! I accept your challenge.
A competitive glint sparkles in Lance's eyes as he holds Claude's gaze. Good. Now that you two have decided on a challenge, you are done. Now, if you don't mind, Lance, I have business with my fiancé. Lance bobs his head politely at me.
Of course. Thank you for your assistance, Princess Lucette.
He flashes me a grateful smile before turning away, not even bothering to say anything to his brother. He'll say it on the battlefield. Once Lance is gone, I turn to Klaude with my eyebrows raised. You told me before you would tell me what was happening between you and Lance. That you would tell me what has been bothering you. You have been insisting that you are fine when you are not. And because of you, I have been having nightmares.
You have? Lucette, I had no idea. I apologize.
If you are sorry, then you will tell me what is going on. Klaude nods his head at me, slowly defeated. After dispelling the ice at his feet, I half lead, half pull him back to my room. Alright, we're gonna talk about this. When we return, I take a seat by the window while Klaude makes himself comfortable at the piano bench. As always, you are trying to run from your responsibilities.
I must disagree with you. I have shirked no responsibilities.
But you have. You have a responsibility to tell me when something is wrong. We made a promise 2 years ago that there would be no more secrets between us. For a few moments, Klaude only looks at me quietly. He looks somewhere in between melancholy and thoughtful, almost like he is lost in his own reverie. When he finally does speak, he looks calmer.
Allow me to start off first by apologizing. There are 2 reasons I never said anything. The first is simple. I had thought that these feelings I had would be fleeting. I didn't expect them to cling to me so persistently. And my second reason. Every person has their share of pride. I know what I am feeling is petty, which is why I would have rather not brought it up to you.
I furrow my eyebrows at Klaude. Klaude, you know you can always talk to me. I'd rather you tell me things openly without me having to pry them out of you. Unless you would rather I shock the truth out of you. A small strand of electricity travels up my arm on accident when I say that, but Klaude seems to think I have called it on purpose. He shrinks back.
I think I would rather not make you angry. The last time you were irritated, you sliced off my hair.
Oh no. He puts a hand absently to the back of his neck and grumbles. You deserve that. Turning your back on someone during a fight is antagonizing.
I'm sorry. I'm just in the habit of keeping things secret. I've told you before that my father and mother are all about appearances, haven't I? Father believes that keeping things to oneself is a good way to show self-discipline and control. I've always lived by those words. It wasn't until I met you that I began to realize how important sharing the truth was.
He leans back against the piano, eyes narrowed slightly in thought. Finally, he shrugs his shoulders.
If you want the pathetic truth, then I'll share it willingly. My current irritation comes from a lack of self-confidence. My brother's and mine.
What?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
I think back to the way Klaude interacted with the king in the throne room. To me, he seemed quite at ease. He crosses his arms and groans.
Lance is like a mirror.
What?
Whenever he is here, I can't help but think on the things that I left behind, and the responsibilities I have before me. And not only that, but Lance's insecurities remind me of my own. His stem from his lack of confidence in leading, and mine stem from being inadequate at following. All my life I've been training to be the Brugantian king. I was a good student. I could afford missing my lessons because I was naturally gifted. I don't mean to gloat, I swear.
Of course not.
Anyway, here every lesson is a struggle. Your father holds different opinions on politics and responsibilities. Sometimes when I am sitting in with the council listening to them make decisions based off of Angielle's conflicted history, I feel out of my element. Staying with you and Angielle was my choice, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but sometimes I miss home. I miss the comfort of responsibilities that I know.
I kind of figured as much. So the reason you were so irritated at Lance earlier was because you were jealous of him?
I suppose if you wanted to simplify the problem, yes. But jealousy is such an ugly word.
He runs a hand through his hair and sighs.
On my most dreadful days, I cannot help but feel that I was easy to replace in the first place. Lance has always been well liked by everyone.
But you and Lance are nothing alike.
No, not at all. But I at least know he's just as capable of being competent. Yet when I see him now, being so insecure of himself, I feel doubly irritated. If he is going to take up the title that I have been training for all my life, the least he can do is take it seriously.
So in the end, you are worried about him. Klaude looks at me, surprised. Am I wrong? You worry about him, and you worry about yourself.
The more I talk about it, the pettier it seems. This is why I didn't want to bring it up in the first place.
I need to save for this one. I had this problem on his initial route as well. Sometimes you need to tease Klaude out of his funks. And sometimes he needs you to be genuinely sympathetic, and I'm not sure which time is one of those times. Like, I'm worried. I'm sure Lucette would try her best, but she can't really imagine what he's going through. I might be surprised, and she has some good words of wisdom. But I'm worried that he might be like, you just don't understand at all what I'm going through. I also don't want to make light of what he's feeling, though, so... But teasing him in the past has been a good thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm on best end route right now, so I'm going to try teasing him, see how that goes. But it could be either of these. Perhaps a change of atmosphere is for the better. I'm disappointed, Chameleon Prince. Klaude looks up at me, startled.
What?
Klaude sometimes refers to himself by that nickname here when he is being dramatic, like during our sword practices. It is just an extension of his nickname from home, but it seems to do wonders to his self-confidence. I stand up and cross my arms. The Chameleon Prince I know is always overfilled with confidence. He faces his problems head-on and does not let his emotions get the better of him. I would go so far as to say that he even shares his problems with confidence, without thinking them a weakness. The man sitting here before me is indeed a petty man, but only because he lowers himself to such.
Lucette.
I'm afraid you've been demoted to just Chameleon now. Klaude rises from the bench and takes a step toward me.
Did you just say demoted? Your heart is as cold as ice, love.
Perhaps, but at least I wear my ice-cold heart on my sleeve. Klaude puts a hand to his chest and sighs out dramatically. Much to my relief, he is now wearing a smile on his face. Oh, good. I was worried.
And yet that wasn't always the case, was it? Somehow you always manage to upstage me, darling. You know how hard I've been working to be the perfect prince.
Of course I do. And that is exactly why I think that you hiding things from me is so foolish. It may be wise to hide things in front of other people, but I am not just some other person, am I?
Of course not.
You see? You may think keeping your emotions tucked away makes you appear more confident, but I know better than anyone else when you are hiding something.
Yes, because you're my fiancé, right?
Of course. But also because I am the Tenebrarum Bearer. You couldn't hide anything negative from me, even if you wanted to.
A fair point.
In retrospect, this whole problem was far more exaggerated than it needed to be. Klaude winks at me.
I never do anything half-heartedly, darling.
I am relieved that the gloomy mood from earlier has dissipated. One of the good things about Klaude is that he usually recognizes when he is in the wrong and tries his best to remedy the situation quickly. Yeah, especially if you call him out on it right away. He's like, oh, I needed to snap out of that really quick. He's just stubborn and needs to learn to rely on me more. What happened to the sophistication you displayed in the throne room earlier?
Oh, I am always the picture of sophistication.
Right. Klaude's smile becomes softer.
Anyway, thank you, Lucette. I think I needed that talk.
It is ironic that Klaude is the one that taught me that secrets are dangerous when he himself is still learning to share them. You do not need to thank me, but shouldn't you apologize to Lance? Klaude's expression snaps into something somber.
Nonsense. Lance and I will figure this out as we always do, by competing one-on-one. Passionate challenges always encourage Lance to spill the contents of his heart to other people. I'm not the only one in my family who is good at keeping secrets, you know.
The moment Klaude became engaged to you, I became next in line for the Brigantian throne. Father has been waiting for me to give a speech officially announcing that.
And how is the speech going?
Terribly. I die a slow death in front of large crowds. Klaude has always been better at the spotlight than I have. I prefer speaking to people one-on-one. Large crowds are terrifying.
Is it possible that there is more to that worry than Lance was letting on?
Don't worry about Lance. I only ever provoke him when I need him to talk to me. It's my responsibility as an older brother to set him straight, after all.
You two are both so problematic.
Well, we are brothers. I'm just lucky that I have a certain lovely witch here to listen to my woes. Thank you for that, Lucette.
With that, the heart of the problem at least is solved. The both of us are both able to go our own ways with confidence. Yay!